کنفرانس جوامع ایرانیان در 42 شهر جهان. سناتور هورکان، معاون کمیته مالی در سنای ایرلند جنوبی. رژیم از شورای ملی مقاومت ایران وحشت دارد، زیرا آلترناتیو دموکراتیک را در برابر حکومت مذهبی نمایندگی می کند.
Madam President-elect, honourable colleagues, ladies and gentlemen and dear friends, we are gathered here in solidarity with the people of Iran and in support of the cause of human rights and democracy in Iran. If the last 40 years are any indication, it is a fact that the greatest obstacle to a free and prosperous Iran is the current ruling theocracy, which has only brought destruction and misery for the proud people of Iran and in the process destabilise the entire Middle East region, if not the world. It now threatens particularly the security of Europe. So I say, perhaps on behalf of all of our panellists today, to the people of Iran who are seeing and listening to this conference, that we applaud you, we admire your courage, and we stand up with you as you rise up against the current corrupt, murderous and illegitimate rule of theocracy in your country. Your ultimate success will not only bring hope and popular rule to your country, but also rid the world of a very serious, significant and great threat. This means your ultimate success is in every sense of the word in the interest of the whole world, and there is no reason for the international community not to stand with you, the people of Iran, right across the world, at this critical juncture in your country's history as you fight to take back your country from the claws of the theocratic dictatorship. I see it like the sting of a dying wasp. As they know they're going out, as they know it's becoming less likely to survive, they're becoming more and more dangerous. Today, the threat from the Iranian regime can be categorized into four serious challenges: the domestic human rights violations, terrorism, destructive regional intervention in Syria and other places, and the nuclear missile program. A deal was made by the world powers to neutralize the threat from a nuclear-armed theocracy in Iran, but as we now see, what it did in reality was to provide the regime financial resources and diplomatic cover to escalate the three other challenges. Since the so-called, and it's very much so-called, moderate Hassan Rouhani took over the presidency in Iran, the number of executions and arbitrary arrests have increased in Iran. The overall human rights situation has worsened, persecution of activists and dissidents has intensified, terrorism against dissidents outside Iran's border has surged, and the regime's support for terrorist groups in the region, including militias in Iraq and the Assad regime in Syria, have all continued and increased. These clearly prove that the notion of a moderate faction from within the theocracy is nothing but an illusion, and also that the Iranian regime relies on terrorism and repression to survive. Consequently, the popular protests erupted earlier this year and spread across the country at a rapid pace. The theocratic leaders have responded to this growing public dissent with a doubling down of the domestic crackdown and launching terrorist attacks on the organised Iranian resistance movement abroad. In this regard, we have the foil bombing plots of the NCRI gathering in Paris in June this year, which I attended, and the New Year celebration of the PMOI in Albania in March this year, with an Iranian diplomat now waiting prosecution in Belgium over his role in the planned bombing of the gathering in Paris. The regime's active involvement in these attacks can no longer be denied. In fact, when senior regime officials like the Supreme Leader Khamenei, Rouhani and commanders of the Revolutionary Guards admit publicly that the organised Iranian resistance is the organising force behind the ongoing popular protests in the country that threatens their grip on power, then it comes as no surprise that the regime's diplomats abroad are planning and carrying out terrorist attacks and espionage against the NCRI and the PMOI. You have them on the run. You have them scared. Then we had the regime's massive disinformation and propaganda campaign against the NCRI, and you, Madam President-elect, to set the stage for future terrorist attacks and tarnish the image of the Iranian resistance movement. The regime's actions in 2018 points to two key conclusions. First, the regime feels threatened and tries to prevent the growing synergies between protesters in Iran and the organised Iranian resistance movement. And second, the regime fears the NCRI represents a viable democratic alternative to the ruling theocracy. It started with the massacre of 30,000 political prisoners in Iran 30 years ago in 1988. A recent report by Amnesty, as others have outlined, describes these mass executions as an ongoing crime against humanity and reveals that many of those responsible are holding senior and ministerial positions in Rouhani's government and in the judiciary. Thus, addressing all of the four serious challenges is only possible by a firm policy towards the Iranian regime based on recognising the democratic aspiration of the Iranian people, supporting their democratic resistance movement, the NCRI, and holding the regime and its leaders to account for crimes against humanity and terrorism. This is the only viable way and the most sensible option before the international community to make sure the Iranian people win their struggle against theocracy. I have had the honour to visit members of the PMOI here in Albania today and see firsthand what you have built here, and it is phenomenal. We have a crisis at home in my country in terms of homelessness, and we talk about building units. You have built so many units for so many people so quickly. It is really inspiring. You live here in cooperation with the local community, which again is fantastic to see, and it's great to see so many Albanian people, including the former Prime Minister and the leader of one of your major political parties in Albania, both here giving you solidarity. If anyone doubts the ability of Mrs. Rajavi's determination to build a free, democratic and prosperous Iran for your people, I just asked them to come here, visit Ashraf 3 and see for yourself the constructive force that will guide the Iranian people to achieve a democratic change and help them build a better and prosperous future. I conclude by reiterating this. The success of the Iranian people in bringing down the theocratic regime is in the interest of the international community and the EU. So I support the calls on my own government and all EU governments and the governments of other European countries to adopt a firm policy in Iran, support the Iranian people and the resistance movement led by Madame Rajavi, and isolate the theocratic regime by cutting diplomatic ties, expelling their intelligence operatives from Europe, imposing sanctions on their leaders, and hold them to account for their human rights abuses and terrorism. In concluding, I just want to say that I visited many different people today. We visited the medical centre, we visited the bakery, the media centre, the studios. What is being done here is truly phenomenal. It is absolutely amazing what you have achieved here. And Madam President-elect, I wish you and your people all the success, and I promise to stand with you and support all of you, the Iranian people, both here and around the world, and particularly in Iran, in your quest for liberty and democracy. I hope that soon I will have an opportunity to visit Tehran when it becomes free Iran and the capital of a free and democratic country. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.
آنتونیو تاسو، نماینده پارلمان ایتالیا. این دیدارم از جامعه شما در اشرف درس‌های بسیاری از شجاعت و ایمان به آینده آموختم.
Thank you. What amazing people. In Italian, siete meravigliosi. Thank you. Madame Rajavi, illustrious representatives, and ladies and gentlemen, on the 70th anniversary of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we have the opportunity to ponder its first article. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. It's a moment to reflect on how much we have done to uphold the universal rights. How many generations have been lost fighting for an idea. Is there something righter than the freedom of speech, peaceful assembly, and free press? Is there something wrong or excessive in the right to elect our governors? What I believe is sacred is the defense of these liberties and fight against tyranny, oppression, and discrimination. In Iran, unfortunately, the basic human rights and fundamental freedoms are always denied. And it is with profound sorrow that I read of executions, imprisonments, and floggings. For what? For what? For troubling the public order and propaganda against the regime. It was for me the first time in Albania, and it was the first time in Ashraf 3, your home. The Ashraf 3 is the best example of a community of men and women cooperating as one to bring us closer to our highest ideals. In concluding, Madame Rajavi, illustrious representatives, ladies and gentlemen, today, during the visit in your community, in your Ashraf 3, I have learned a lot from women and men that I have met. Lessons of passion, courage, and faith in the future. And I wish you, with all my heart and my soul, to return soon in your country for a prosperous future in a free Iran. Thank you. Thank you. Grazie. Grazie a tutti.